Welcome to Master the Game. I am Juce. I am here with Paula, and today we are talking about RPG a Day, Day 18, and we have plenty of things to say in this video. So let's get started. All right, so today's word is plenty, and I've been trying to think about this a lot. And one of the things that was resonating with me is how sometimes you will say, "Oh, you don't need that. We have plenty of those," or whatever. And it could be D&D books, miniatures, whatever, where you are discouraging me from buying it that day, or Kickstarters or whatever. So
there wasn't a Kickstarter we argued about last night or anything like that.
That wrapped up within the last 24 hours.
It's fine.
So anyway, but where I'm going with this is players' magic items. Now, in a game, I go back and forth from being somebody who gives a lot of treasure and who doesn't give a lot of treasure. And the thing for me that determines that is kind of my players. So, like, for instance, when we've played with, like, your brother and his wife, they crave treasure. Like, they always want treasure.
Yeah. I
am far less likely to give them good treasure because of the power game mentality that kind of comes with it. Mm-hmm. And it, like, their characters being solely about the treasure they get. You know what I mean? And how powerful they are. Whereas if I have a group that's, like, RP heavy, who isn't caring so much about winning D&D, I'm more likely to give them the stuff they think is really cool. And I might even give them something really powerful sooner. Like, and I've been thinking about that with, like, the ancestral weapons. Like, that would be something I would do probably more so for people like that. Or, oh, you want a Vorpal sword. Well, maybe it doesn't have all the abilities that a Vorpal sword has when it's maxed out, but maybe it's got some of the starting abilities. And
right, like it's like skim down or, you know.
So, like, if that's your character's goal, to get something like that, and I know you're not going to abuse certain powers, I'll be like, hey, all right, here you go. Here's your Vorpal sword at 3rd or 4th level, but it only does this and this, and as you get stronger, we will give it more abilities. And I always thought that was kind of cool, because I know other DMs who have done that. And I believe there's stuff like that in the Tal'Dorei setting for Critical Role, and I know some people have talked about doing that in their own games. So I don't know. That's just kind of what I thought about that. But there are some players where I'm like, no, you have plenty of magic items. You just don't want to use the 3 different rings of protection from types of damage. Or whatever.
Yeah,
I know that benefits you. I know.
I took all those.
Only because everyone else thought it was garbage.
Yeah, like it was like
resistance is really good. Resistance is really good.
Yeah, it was like
necrotic damage.
Yes, there was resistance to
certain elemental damage, I think.
Yeah, some sort of mental.
Oh, psychic damage.
Yes.
So it was necrotic, psychic, and then a specific element, I think.
Yeah, and nobody wanted these rings of protection, and
yeah, you were fighting necromancers.
Yeah,
undead.
And I was like, well, you guys can be stupid, so I'll take all 3 of them.
You were going into the mountains, possibly into the Underdark.
So we had treasure set up, because different people do treasure differently.
Yep.
We had it set up so you could just, like, take a magic item if you wanted it. But let's say there were 2 people who both wanted a magic item. The person who had the lesser total magic items got to pick that item. So you didn't have, you each have a sword, then maybe you would just roll for it or something like that. So nobody wanted these items. So
they were jockeying for the big, powerful weapons, I think.
Just like a free-for-all. So I took all the protection rings. And I had, like, a sorcerer who was a dragonborn, so I also had some sort of, like,
fire resistance
to another element.
It was lightning, I think.
So now I'm, like, resistant to 2 elements, and necrotic damage and psychic damage going into battles with undead.
You were slowly becoming the tank without them realizing.
Yeah, and that was, like, the goal for my character. I just want to be resistant to everything.
Well, it didn't start that way.
New goal.
Yeah, once you got, like, 2 of the 3 rings...
Yeah.
And I had already planned the adventure that gave the necrotic ring, because I think you guys got that after fighting the necromancer the first time. Because I think it was in the chest, the mimic chest, that you guys killed. Shot out 24 hands that attacked him. Because there were 12 people missing from the town.
Oh, man.
Yeah, all of it mathematically worked. That was the whole reason there were so many freaking hands. But it was just silly to me, because then they complained. Like, the thing that bothered it, I really got peeved by this, because I put a lot of thought into all these things, and all of it made sense and was going to be impactful in the campaign. I thought somebody would take each ring, and I thought that would eventually make it so, okay, you can handle this bad. And we had a lot of frontline people. Yeah.
There's a lot of aggressive characters.
Yeah, we had 2 fighters. And
a barbarian.
One barbarian, 1 fighter, 1 cleric of life, which is basically a frontline character. Your sorcerer, and then we had a rain. Was he? No, he was a wizard.
Wizard.
Yeah.
So he was the only...
Wizard was the only one who kind of like purposely stayed back all the time.
Yeah, and he would use his character as a utility character. Yeah, and I... Yeah, he ran it a little bit more like utility-wise.
I feel like he did magic missile all the time because he knew it would hit.
Maybe.
He was more playing it like safe and conservative, I felt.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so then they complained about it. After the one session, like, we haven't gotten any magic items. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've given you more magic items than I give, like, any of my groups. It's just you guys said they all suck. Yeah. I gave them a mace. I think it was this group. I gave them and I gave them magical things after fighting a dragon. The city opened up their treasury and let them pick out random magic items. And so some of them were kind of silly. And so you didn't know what they did. And I had a list of 100 things, and they picked. The wizard got a helm of invisibility. However, when you put the helmet on, your head was invisible, nothing else. So you could like literally peek around corners and not be seen. Very useful, I thought, especially in dungeons or anything like that. And he thought it was stupid. And then you got a mace of healing, which did 1d8 damage. However, it also did 1d4 damage or 1d4 healing at the same time. So there was a chance you could heal them rather than hurt them. And then it also held Cure Light Wounds, like 2 Cure Wounds spells or 1 Cure Wound spell that you could automatically do it without giving up a spell slot. So our cleric took that because she's like, a mace. And then I don't remember what everyone else got. I think
I took all 3 rings.
Well, yeah, but this was that treasury thing. Do you remember what your random item was that you got on the slip of paper? I don't remember what you, Patty, or your brother got.
I don't remember what I got.
But those other 2. But anyway, so they like some of them had quirks, some of them didn't, some of them were just cool, And it was completely random, and it was actually a secret Santa thing that I wanted to do for them because it was around Christmas time. But yeah, they complained about that. Like half of the items, they were like, "Oh, half these items are useless." And it's like, skip you. I put a lot of thought into coming up with a list of 100 things.
Anyway, apparently we had plenty of magic
You did items. In that game. You had a ton of magic
items.
items.
I wasn't complaining.
Nobody was trying to sell any of them. Could have sold them and tried to get a bunch of money and buy like plate mail and stuff.
I wasn't mad.
No, I know. You were happy. You were the only one happy. Mm-hmm. So what about you for plenty?
So plenty makes me...
You didn't have a topic!
I'm trying to explain. I'm trying to decide how to explain this best. So food, right?
Okay.
Having like plenty of food.
Yes.
So resources in RPGs.
Okay.
Some people are really heavy and pay attention to, hey,
encumbrance.
Do you have enough water? Do you have enough food? Do you have enough this? Do you have enough that to continue on? Do you actually have a torch? Like, do you have flint and steel? Like all of these different things that a lot of times you just take for granted that like, oh, I got a backpack, whatever, it's fine, it's not a big deal. Oh, I grabbed some rations, it's okay. But sometimes some people get like really heavy into the resource aspect.
Yes.
And
the accounting.
Some people are very into it. Some people really don't care. It seems like everybody is on one extreme or the other, where either they really don't care and they don't want to think about it, or it's really important and it's a big deal that you keep track, and they're going to hold you like accountable to that. I've always been on the end and in games where people really didn't care. But what I was wondering is, have you played in games where people have been like really resource heavy?
Yes and no. I mean, I know people who are really into that. So for me as a DM, it comes down to my story. So if I'm going to hand wave it most of the time, you better believe there will probably be a time where I say you are out of water. Like, I'm not going to say how much water did you drink, and I'm just going to tell you you're out of water. Because I want to tell a story now where you're suffering from exhaustion. Maybe you've been traveling for a while.
That's good, yeah.
I'm just going to do it to you. And, think of a movie. I don't need to know in a movie every time they stop and get gas in their car when they're traveling across country.
Right,
and
you
eating.
Just care when they run out of gas.
Yes.
And it's become an issue, and it adds to the storyline.
Exactly. So that's how I would tend to run it, because I don't usually get hung up on it. However, I do think as players, the other thing is, when you do stop to a city, you might want to remind your DM, yeah, I bought more. Just because. Because maybe I'm coming up on that time where I'm saying, yeah, you guys are out of these things. And maybe there was one player in the town who was like, yeah, I want to buy more torches and this and that. They're going to be the one that has the stuff.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I might say, okay, so because last time you actually made a conscious effort to make sure you had rations, you made sure you bought enough. Whereas everyone else, when they bought some, they didn't buy enough. They're now suffering from exhaustion. You're not.
Yeah.
So I might do something like that.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I've been kind of thinking about it because, so not this weekend, but the following weekend, we're going to be picking up on our Tomb game again. And
that one
which is a game that I'm running.
Yeah.
Right? And we have not played in a while, so I kind of got to brush up. I really should probably start reading this week. Oh, man. And so the last thing that they had done is they had come across, well, they were doing some traveling after this, but they had got this alchemy jug, and they had to work their butts off to get that alchemy jug. Like, they almost died like 18 different times.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
And it was rough.
I don't think I ever felt worried about it.
But then the thing is that you get to the end and there's this giant pillar, and on top of the pillar is this jug, and their expectation was that this was going to be this amazing thing, and instead it basically just creates enough water for them for the whole
I think
day.
it was great.
Which I think is really good, because now you don't have to worry about it. But
Water.
I think that there was some
Still gotta worry about
disappointment
food.
maybe that
From them.
it wasn't something cooler, because there's not a lot of magic
It's only a ring of
stuff
protection.
in this game at all. But that was kind of, how much food do you have? How much water do you have? Like, if you stay, for a week in a town or something like that, and we're just skipping the storyline ahead, I think a lot of times I make assumptions that you stocked up, because most players like, oh, I'm going to go around and you have, like, if you stay, for a week in a town or something like that, and we're just skipping the storyline ahead, I think a lot of times I make assumptions that you stocked up, because most players like, oh, I'm going to go around and shopping and I'm going to stack up on supplies.
Yeah, but this game
if you say
implies
that,
survival.
I will take it. But in this
so
game,
you should,
I need to be,
and you need to be clear about that.
More strict about it.
Yeah. So every day,
that, hey, this is happening.
Every day is a new hex, right? Isn't that the idea?
Yeah.
So then you need
part.
to figure out how much resources you go through in
a
day.
It's every it's not quite like that. But
okay. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So then tell us. Okay, make sure you're marking off your water for the last 3 days.
Well, now you have the jug. Now you're like,
or food rations
set.
still.
Yeah.
So you still might want to say, hey, make sure you're marking off your rations.
I was doing a good job at that at the beginning of it.
The first night.
The first.
I don't think it's happened
the
since.
first couple sessions.
Yeah,
but then I've kind of
left.
fell off the bandwagon, so I got to get back on. But
yeah, we've only played a few sessions too.
Yeah.
So.
And the last couple haven't necessarily been like that long of a period of time.
But yeah, it's because of the nature of Tomb of Annihilation. I think you should drive home the resources aspect. Like, really, we should be like excited if we come across fresh meat. Or like, oh, we found a bunch of berries, like good berries. We can actually eat these, and it's self-sustaining. Like, we're going to be good for 10 days because we've got 10 days worth of good berries or whatever. Like, that should be the treasure, especially for, like, some of the players in the group.
That game is written, though.
Right.
Is that a lot of your treasure is basically, part of, like, your survival.
From what I've heard, there's treasure in, like, tombs and stuff.
There is.
That's where you get it.
Yes. It's just not as...
It's not as prevalent as your groups are used to.
Yes.
Or our groups have been used to.
Yes, exactly. But I've like thrown in some other stuff, that I've talked about, but they're not really like.
Oh, I don't even remember.
They're not really.
No biggie.
That great all the time.
All right, so this is Master the Game. We talked about some survival, food, rations, water aspects. So if that's been something that's been big in your games, I would love it if you'd talk about it below. And how you would run like Tomb of Annihilation. Would you add more treasure, things like that? And then also we discussed plenty of magic items. Do you give your groups too much? Is it like Monty Hall campaigns? Does it depend on your group? I personally would love to hear what you guys do about that below. Be sure to hammer that like button. Smash that subscribe button. I am Juice. This is Paula. Was Master the Game. Game on.